Pardue, what are you doing?
Going to join the Great Hall.
You can't. It's a trap.
I have spells. I'm going to fly.
You don't have enough points. I am the maze controller.
Maze control?
Yes. And I have absolute authority in this game.
Game?
Game.
That was a clip from the 1982 film Mazes and Monsters. It's about a college student called Robbie who starts playing a tabletop role-playing game called Mazes and Monsters. Eventually Robbie gets too caught up in the game, and for him the line between reality and fantasy begins to blur. It was a pretty common belief in the early 1980s that role-playing games such as Dungeons and Dragons would eventually cause those who played them to become delusional and unable to separate fantasy from reality. This belief may seem silly today, but it wasn't based on nothing. James Dallas Egbert III was a child prodigy born on the 29th of October 1962. He entered Michigan State University to study computer sciences in 1979, aged just 16 years old. James struggled making friends, and he had a lot of issues in his personal life. In an attempt to deal with this, he started playing Dungeons and Dragons. Occasionally, James and his D&D group would go into the steam tunnels underneath his college campus, where they would supposedly take drugs that James had made and play a live-action version of D&D. A little later on in the year, James's parents were called by Michigan State University, who told them that their son had been missing for 5 days. Eventually, when James remained unfound, his parents decided to hire a private investigator from Texas called William C. Deere. By the time Deere began investigating, news of James's disappearance had already spread, and it was becoming a big story. Deere found out that James had been playing D&D and that he had been making drugs. One theory proposed by Deere was that James had gotten carried away with D&D and that he had gotten lost in the steam tunnels. This was a theory the media reported on, and it sparked massive controversy around the game. Over time, this theory evolved, and was soon accepted by many as being a game of D&D that had gone horribly wrong, and it had led to James's death. But what really happened to James? It turned out that James had indeed gone into the steam tunnels and attempted suicide, but his attempt failed. After this, James went into hiding. Eventually, James decided to contact Deere himself, who then put James into his uncle's custody. Sadly, James was unable to get the help he needed, and he attempted suicide 2 more times, first with cyanide, and second by shooting himself in the head. James Dallas Egbert III died on the 17th of August 1980. Despite the overwhelming evidence suggesting that the reasons for James's suicide were massive amounts of pressure to succeed, the stress of hiding the fact that he was gay, his lack of friends, and drugs, most of the blame was put on Dungeons and Dragons. In the end, this was yet another case of people blaming what they didn't understand instead of looking for the real issues. This is a mistake that every generation has made, and it's one we are doomed to repeat, unless we look back and remember how unhelpful and ridiculous it was to blame a simple hobby.
The paths to the forest are clearly marked.
And so, we played the game again, for one last time. It didn't matter that there were no maps, or dice, or no monsters. Pardue saw the monsters. We did not. We saw nothing but the death of hope, and the loss of our friend. And so we played the game until the sun began to set and all the monsters were dead.